If you play live low-stakes poker, I can guarantee that you make this one mistake. How do I know? Because everyone makes it. Recreational players, fish, whales, semi-pros, pros, heck, even poker coaches make this mistake. And because everybody makes the same mistake, nobody really notices it. But if you become the only player in your player pool who avoids this mistake, then your win rate will automatically shoot up. In this video, I'm going to show you what this super common mistake is, why it even is a mistake, and what you can do to separate yourself from everybody else in your games. And then I will also tell you that sometimes it is actually a good thing to make this mistake because you will induce even bigger mistakes from your opponents. My name is Andreas Wagner. I'm a live low-stakes poker player and coach. Let's jump right into it. So what is this mysterious mistake that nobody even notices? Here's an example of it. Say you play in a 1-2 live game at a casino with a typical rake structure. The cutoff raises to $10 and it folds to you in the big blind. You look down at King-Jack offsuit. What do you do in this spot? I'm almost certain that you call. And that is the mistake everybody makes. It probably doesn't seem like much of a mistake to you in this moment. Well, as I said, nobody really notices it because everybody makes this same mistake. And if you look at a solver like GTO Wizard, you can see that in the big blind, you mostly call a cutoff raise with King-Jack offsuit. You sometimes raise and you never fold.
So how is it a mistake then if I call?
You might ask. The solver assumes that the cutoff opened to 2.3 big blinds, which would be $4.60. And it assumes that we are 100 big blinds deep. But in our example, villain made it 5 times the big blind and we are 200 big blinds deep. And the other thing is rake. Live rake tends to be 10% of the pot up to a cap in most casinos in the US, and in Europe and Asia it is 5% with a higher cap. I have always had a suspicion that I was calling bets too loose in live poker, but now I have confirmation. GTO Wizard's new 8max preflop tool offers this proof. If we look at this exact scenario, we can see that calling King-Jack offsuit in the big blind would indeed be a mistake. And the same is true for low pocket pairs, many suited aces, all suited connectors. Even with pocket nines, you would make a mistake by calling. And now, be honest, would you ever have folded pocket nines in this spot? And here we're talking about a raise to $10. Now imagine if someone raises to $15, which is not that uncommon in many low-stakes games. Calling with King-Jack offsuit becomes an even bigger mistake now. And even pocket 10s and ace-10 suited are losing hands in theory. In GTO Wizard, you can play around with different raise sizes in their 8max version. Some eye-opening moments are guaranteed. This is like going to the supermarket and buying a liter of milk. If the milk costs $1, you'll be happy to buy it. If it costs $2, well, maybe you would get a better price somewhere else. But if the supermarket charges $8 for that 1 liter, which is like a quarter of a gallon, then you know you're not getting a great deal. Unless you live in Hawaii, of course, then $8 would still be a bargain. And it's the same with poker. You have to be price sensitive. At this point, I would like to add a disclaimer, however. Of course, the solver assumes that your opponents are world class. And of course, the opponents in the games you play are not world class. So we have to take the solver output with a pinch of salt. But I want to show you another example where most players will get it wrong in the real world of live poker. Say it is the same scenario, but we know that the player in the cutoff is not a world-class player, but a normal break-even player at 1-2. He raises to $12 and it folds to us. We now have pocket 4s and we call. The flop is amazing. King 8-4 rainbow. Villain c-bets to $12. We only call this time. The turn is a brick. We check and unfortunately he checks back. The river is another brick. We now bet around pot to $50. His side calls with his king-queen. We win $75 of our opponent minus a rake, of course. Most players will be quite happy in this pot. But the thing is that we will only flop a set around 12% of the time. So whenever we do hit a set, we have to make 8 times as much as we invest just to break even. That means that whenever we hit a set, we have to make $80 on average, and that's not even accounting for the times when we hit our set, but we still lose the pot because villain has a better set or a straight or a flush. But we invested $10 and we only won $75 minus the rake. So even though we hit a set and our opponent has top pair, we did not make enough money to get a positive return on investment. And this means that calling pocket fours pre-flop to a raise as big as 6 times the big blind was clearly a mistake. But sometimes you have to actually make a mistake to win more money. Let me explain. In poker, you don't make money because of your brilliant plays. In poker, you make money because of the mistakes your opponents made. So if you make a small mistake and therefore induce a bigger mistake from your opponent, your win rate will go up. Here's an example. If you have a hand like King-Jack offsuit in the cutoff, you are meant to open it to around 2.3 to 2.5 big blinds. At 1-2, this would mean raising to $5. If you open this exact hand to $15, it would be a mistake in game theory because your opponent can exploit you. But at 1-2, this will probably not happen. Of course, if the big blind wakes up with pocket aces, he will 3-bet you and you will lose more money than necessary. But if the big blind calls your huge raise with, say, Jack-9 offsuit, then his mistake will be much bigger than yours. And you would never have made that big mistake if you hadn't raised to 7.5 big blinds. This is exactly why you should still raise bigger, especially with good hands when you are in late position and you don't expect your opponents to 3-bet you light. But here's the thing, you can rarely induce this sort of mistake by calling a bet, because when you call a big bet, then you will be typically the one making the bigger mistake. There is one exception though, and I want to show it to you now. If you have a pocket pair or potentially a suited connector could also be a good hand for this, and you call an early position raise when you are in late position or in the blinds. Even the solver approves this move. It says that the play is neutral in terms of expected value, but with your skill edge that you hopefully have over your opponent, you can make this a profitable play. At this point, you're mainly hoping to flop a set and then stack an opponent who can't let go of an overpair or top pair. This strategy works very well in multi-way pots too, but be careful with suited connectors. Their value goes down in multi-way pots. If you can see that the pot will go multi-way, I would fold those and add suited aces instead, because they can make the nut flush whereas suited connectors can't. So what should be the right play then? Should we fold more pre-flop or make small mistakes to induce bigger mistakes by our opponents? Well, both, but you have to pick the right spots. Basically, whenever you are out of position, aka you're in the blind, and you face a big raise, I would play a 3-bet or fold strategy only. This is even more true if there was a raise and there were a few callers in between. You can take the pot down straight away and avoid paying rake. Now you will realize your equity even less, so I would definitely fold any hand that doesn't play well in multi-way pots. But as you can see, even in heads-up pots, if someone raises to 7 big blinds, you have virtually 0 calls on any position, including the big blind. And if you're on the button or in the cutoff, and someone opens from early position, you can call with pocket pairs, suited broadways, suited connectors. But be aware that it would not be a mistake to just fold these hands. You are relying on hitting a big hand or bluffing someone off their hand, which can work, but is a risky and potentially expensive strategy. So if you want to play it safer, just always play a 3-bet or fold strategy against big bets. Now you know how to play against big raise sizes, but that's only half of what you need to succeed. If you want to know what the other half is, then click on the video here and you'll learn what raise sizes to use yourself when you have a good hand.